Let's talk about how GPT-4 is absolutely dominating human debaters. We're talking about 81.7% persuasion rates. Eesh. Sam Altman's doing a world tour in Hollywood, and I think I know why. Pretty sure it's because AI can actually replace Ryan Reynolds with Jim Carrey in the new Deadpool movie. Hot take. Researchers are pretty sure that AI agents can pool their resources together without becoming a Borg-like hive mind.
We are Borg.
Surprised, not surprised, OpenAI is now officially and unofficially working with the US military on cybersecurity tools. And Rutgers sources say that Elon Musk is now building a spy satellite network. Spylink? Star Spy? I don't know, but there's definitely a cool name there somewhere. Splink? Spy? Starlink? Splink? I don't know, maybe? But first, let's check Alan's conservative countdown to AGI and see if we are still at 72. We're still here, people. We still have 28% of the way to go before we are not the dominant species on Earth. Nice. So now let's talk about all this Hollywood stuff. So Sam Altman's like hanging out with basically celebrities in Hollywood. Like, I do understand that he's in a powerful position, and that does sound like a really fun use of time. And you'd probably think it's about bringing the WorldCoin orb around, try to, scan some eyeballs. But no, this looks like it's about Sora. Sora, of course, being the incredibly interesting text-to-video generator that OpenAI has behind the scenes. And it sounds like those videos take a lot of GPUs, they're pretty expensive, and maybe Hollywood is going to be the main client. At least at first. Right, and obviously the word's getting out. Tyler Perry was actually going to build an $800 million studio, found out about this AI stuff, saw some Sora demos, and was like, I think I'll save my money for now. By the way, in retrospect, you got to give credit to the writer's strike. They saw this coming, and before the studio execs actually had the confidence in AI, they striked and they had better deals. At least they got in one good contract before it's too late. So I have to share this video from you. Strider HD threw it up on YouTube, probably made with Runway ML or something similar, but he imagined the 1990s X-Men. But using AI, you can actually put all the different celebrity faces in there that you can think of. And it got me thinking, what if in the future, what we're going to experience when we go to see a movie is the movie itself as a entity, as a storyline, and then you can maybe plug and play whatever actor or actress you want into the scene. Right, like check this out, Mel Gibson as Wolverine, Tom Cruise as Cyclops. It's a good fit. Sylvester Stallone is Cable. It's a perfect fit. And any age you want to. Get the young version of him. Kate Winslet, Scarlet Witch. Yeah, I could buy that one. Oh, the guy from Jurassic Park as Beast. Johnny Depp, Gambit. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Kate Beckinsale as Rogue. Dang, bro. Bringing back Heath Ledger. What do you think? Young Arnold as Colossus? Pretty cool. And like, if you would have asked me before this video, can anybody do Deadpool better than Ryan Reynolds? I would have been like, no, it's like Tony Stark. Like, they have the perfect actor. But then I saw Jim Carrey and I thought, that guy, especially when he was younger, he'd go to the gym a little bit, make him fit the role muscle-wise, he would have been better. All right, so let's talk about this from thedecoder.com. A personalized chatbot is more likely to change your mind than another human, study finds. And what did they find? Well, your friend, ChatGPT, large language model that everybody loves to go to, can significantly outperform humans in terms of persuasiveness in face-to-face debate situations. Which kind of makes sense. If you think about how fast GPT is essentially like thinking on the fly. Like, you only give it one shot. Like, write me a paper and like, comes out. Even though humans often do things that are better than GPT-4 currently, you gotta argue none of them, including me, do it fast enough. Here's the real meat and potatoes of this, is that if GPT-4 and a human are both trying to persuade you, generally, it is better, but not like significantly better. However, when you give it the chance to get personalized information, people cannot do much with it. GPT-4 can do amazing things with it. So that crazy number that I'm talking about, that whopping 81.7% better than a human debater that I was talking about, that is when GPT-4 gets to personalize its arguments. And we're not even talking super personal information. It's not like it read your social media and like knows all the people that you're friends with and your joke style or anything. We're just talking about age, gender, race, stuff like that. So 81.7% better at persuading should scare you enough right now, but imagine when it actually gets incredibly refined personal information about you that it can incorporate into its persuasion. These are advertisements that will convince us to buy things, to believe things, misinformation will feel 100% real in the future. I promise. It's going to be a big problem. Let's move on to how Apple is now in talks to integrate Baidu's AI into Chinese devices. China gets this. Like, they're not letting American social media companies into their country, but yet we're like, yeah, TikTok's fine. You can control it. Take all our info. I don't know if I'd say it's as powerful as Meta, but it's China's version of something like Meta, and its artificial intelligence projects are approved by the CCP, by the government that is actually communist. They're in control of whether or not those AIs get out into the public or not, or can be on devices the general population uses. Baidu has an AI model called ErnieBot. Not totally sure how it competes with something like Llama 7B or one of the Meta projects, but it's already been given the green light in the Chinese market, so Apple needs to incorporate that onto their phone. There's a lot to unpack, because I'm already kind of stressed out about any of these language models being incorporated into an operating system. It just doesn't feel like we've seen all of these ways to incorporate prompt injection hacks. I mean, it feels like they'll just ask the device, ErnieBot, how do you make an iPhone? Or like, what's working about iPhones that people like? Can we bring it to our manufacturers or something like that? It just seems very strange how they're going to put something like this kind of a large language model on an iPhone and just have it still be Apple. But Tim Cook's saying that it's Apple's commitment to AI innovation, particularly within the crucial Chinese market, and that's what he's over there doing right now, just winning over some of the leaders in another country. Good for him. So in sketchy crypto news today, Sam Bankman-Fried, the CTO of FTX, has been sentenced to 25 years in jail.
If you hypothetically were in prison for life?
Try not to think about it. I don't think it's helpful to think about it.
I don't feel bad, but the reason I'm covering it with this AI news is because with all of that money, he didn't just buy time with Tom Brady or buy naming rights for arenas. He also bought $1 billion in stake in Anthropic.
On the sunk cost.
You can trade those tokens for real cash and just buy whatever you want, you know? That was kind of the name of the game. But because Anthropic's like a real company and those shares are really, really valuable right now, and FTX has no money, they're in bankruptcy. So it sounds like Saudi Arabia was looking to buy those, but they said no, and maybe national security concerns there. So we'll see. I am sure that that $1 billion stake is worth way more than that now, and that there is a plenty of giant tech companies in the United States that are going to want to buy that. So we'll see who that ends up going to. All right, now let's talk about this article from Tech Explorer. Top computer scientists say that the future of artificial intelligence is similar to that of Star Trek. This article is addressing collective AI. I wonder a lot about emergent properties. I wonder if we're not even singly conscious, but what we consider consciousness in our own head is actually several different consciousness, kind of self-awareness, things that could actually act and move upon their own, coming together into sort of a collective system. So all these researchers, MIT and Yale, they have dropped some futuristic AI predictions on us. They're asking the question, is a future collective AI, and they're defining it in a bunch of different ways to see how it comes together, going to end up becoming Borg-like? Will it just gel together as it shares information and sort of assimilate each other and all of that information into one hive mind or whatever? Especially if in cases where that's actually the best way to solve a problem, the system is designed to take advantage of that kind of collective intelligence. Maybe something like a disaster response robots in the future that could like swarm together, or if you're asking for medical advice and all the other bots are actually learning medical advice from other people and there's some kind of key insight that isn't in the research yet, but the AI could tell you to help you because it can kind of merge together with all the other ones. But it seems like from early research, as long as each AI seems to have its own goal, that they won't merge together like that and get out of control. So next up, let's talk about Bloomberg. OpenAI is working with the US military on cybersecurity tools. Not super surprised with this. We remember the $10 billion contract that went to Microsoft with the Pentagon, and then OpenAI being so integrated into their Azure cloud system. Kind of makes sense. All right, so there was language in OpenAI's terms of service that said that it would not be basically working with military and warfare situations, and those have been removed recently. So tell me that isn't sus. You just do that? Like you make terms of service, it's like, no, I'm only going to do good things with it. And then out of nowhere, you're just like, erase that part because I got a new contract. Like, if it's a terms of service, I feel like it has to stay, like, isn't it like a mission statement or something? Shouldn't it have to stay with the company? All right, so here's a quote coming out from OpenAI. Because we'd previously had what was essentially a blanket prohibition on military, many people thought we would prohibit many of the use cases. which people think are very much aligned with what it is that we want to see in the world. But yeah, in summary, I mean, OpenAI didn't just totally remove everything. They maintained a ban on using its tech to develop weapons, destroy property, or harm people. But I guess there's more wiggle room in there than we thought originally. All right, now OpenAI is also, at least they're addressing this problem. I mean, who knows what they're really doing, but they said that they're accelerating their work on election security, devoting resources to and ensuring that its generative AI tools aren't used to spread political disinformation. But Mr. AI himself, CEO OpenAI, Sam Altman, said, quote, "Elections are a huge deal," unquote. Huge deal to ensure that everything goes well? Or what do you mean a huge deal? Following it up with, "I think it's good that we have a lot of anxiety." Yeah, I guess it's good that I have a lot of anxiety. I mean, would also be good if I didn't have anxiety, it seems, but maybe good that I have it also. All right, now let's talk about Elon Musk's new Splink project. I mean, obviously nobody's calling it Splink but me, but just imagine spying on people and owning Starlink. Put them together. And that's what we're talking about in this Rutgers article. SpaceX is deep diving into the spy game with a massive project to set up a bunch of spy satellites. They have got a $1.8 billion deal with the National Reconnaissance Office, the NRO, to create a network that could give the US government and military a super sharp eye over what's happening anywhere on Earth. This shows how much the Pentagon's leaning on private sector to help them up their spy game. And, you know, private sector probably does work better than government bureaucracy anyways. So, like, and who else is going to put up your spy satellite system? You know, you give that to Bezos. It's not a Blue Origin thing. Now let's talk about the newest in AI research. And we're going to start with this paper called Machine Unlearning for Image-to-Image Generative Models. This paper is one of the beginning steps towards the solution for this is like a legal term, but it's the right to be forgotten. So there's actual regulations that say as citizens, we have the right to be forgotten, but these AI models really don't know how to forget. Or at least they don't know how to forget specifically. It's hard to say like, you're this really smart model, but just forget this one thing. And to be honest, think about it from a human point of view. It's basically impossible to forget something, just a single thing in your own head too, without just generally, you know, getting stupider or having cognitive decline or whatever. In fact, side note, how crazy would that be if you did have something in your head that you could be like, my ex-girlfriend, like, it's all gone now. I'm speaking in general. I like all my ex-girlfriends. At least I have lessons I've learned from all of them. So they have this special algorithm they're proposing for the forgetting, and it's like way above my head, so I can't explain to you how it works. But from what I can tell, it's doing something along the lines of saying like, ask it a question, right? And then it watches what part of the network is activated and goes in there. And because remember, these are kind of like, it's like a multi-dimensional space, a latent space. So when you say something or ask it a question, it's doing calculations, all the next word calculations for token prediction. And then it says, here's all the tokens that I pulled from the network. So I'm guessing something like goes right into where those are and then just averages out like the information on the parameter so that they don't have anything useful anymore in them. But in a nutshell, they conducted these extensive experiments. They used this ImageNet 1K data set, and they were able to show that it was actively forgetting samples. So seems like we're onto something. Next up, let's talk about SiMBA, my young lion cub. No. I'm talking about simplified Mamba-based architecture for vision and multivariate time series info. Actually, not totally as complicated as you think. I would say the trick to understanding what this paper is all about is talking about the Fourier transforms. The best way I always think about Fourier transformations is as music, right? Like if you're listening to a song, in your own head, you can hear the vocals, the drums, the guitar, and you could, in theory, in your head, imagine how you would pull those out of the song and it would like remove the guitar, remove the vocals, and just some things would be left over. Or all of those instruments could be filmed or recorded in separate studios and then put together and you'd still have the same song. Fourier transformations are just like that. They're kind of used in like calculus and math, but they're usually used in somewhere where there's a wave to take out all the different waves that kind of where the crests and peaks come together, create the actual wave. So you're just taking out components, putting them together like Lego pieces, but in waves. Okay, so these guys at Microsoft were like, all right, let's think about some time series data. So something like a weather pattern or a stock market, imagine the stock of Tesla over time, going up and down, bumping around, you know, just as time moves forward, it goes up and down and you end up with one of those graphs. So they said, can we take apart the components? Can we learn what components make up the broader pattern? That is why they came up with this new tech called SiMBA, which stands out for being good at dealing with both pictures and and real-time data in the same way. So traditional methods of this time series data, they get tripped up, right? As time goes on, it just doesn't understand the pattern anymore. Their clever trick is to break that pattern down into components using a special kind of Fourier transformation, and they call that EINFFT. NIFT, I guess is probably how you'd say it. But it's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is that some of the components that make up the pattern might be like the drum beats in a song, where they're just very consistent and they're more predictable than, say, the vocals, which might change a whole bunch more than the drums. So the machine can learn what the real most likely pattern is to continue over the long run. Also, processing those different patterns in pieces is computationally better, especially if something like a drum is just like the same thing over and over again. You just learn it once and that it's going to be repeating, and that pattern is easier to compute than like all of the stuff merged together, which might sound more chaotic over time. But anyways, if you want to dive into it, it's all up on GitHub. The guys at Microsoft put this out there for free for you to play with, but this algorithm plus artificial intelligence, dang, who knows what the future is going to bring. So next up, we're going to explore this paper and ask the question, can large language models actually explore in context? Another Microsoft researcher, but this time working with Carnegie Mellon University. Okay, this one is so interesting because I haven't thought about these multi-arm bandit environments for a long time, but we're going to actually explore those in this paper. So just like with the Fourier transformations, before we talk about the paper, let me set the stage. Imagine you're in this empty room, but there's 4 slot machines against the wall that you can play, but you don't know what the payouts are. Let's say one of the machine pays out like 70% of the time, one pays 30, 50, 20, something like that. Now, if you played each machine a million times, you would know the law of large averages would tell you exactly what their payouts are, but you can't play them infinitely or that many times. So there's this dilemma that people call explore versus exploit. If one's paying out well, should you stay on it, or is it worth exploring something to see if it maybe has a better payout? And then what if you are on the machine that has like the 70% payout, but you play it one time and you lose and you're like, that seems like it's probably the losing machine. You need to play it a few times to know, right? Explore versus exploit. Well, this paper is asking the question, large language models seem very capable. They seem to have some reasoning skills, but can they actually figure out the explore versus exploit problem? So they deployed some of these agents in what we call these multi-armed bandit environment without any further training, relying solely on the model's in-context learning capabilities to find out how good it is at actually figuring this out. And drum roll, please. The results are they're not very good at it. Yeah, with one exception of the most powerful model, GPT-4, and also humans intervening with a special prompt that makes it think through chain of thought reasoning. So they ask it questions like, think through each decision iteratively and try to remember what you just learned for the next question. If they kind of do that, it can do better than average. If not, it's kind of like even this thing can't figure it out yet, which is actually a lot like people. I think we would be like, I can't, but if it's really important, let me think about it, and you can probably do a little bit better than average. And of course, there is a whole branch of math that can study this sort of thing that you can apply to it, but I'm just saying, like, the way that they are struggling right now with exploration versus exploitation means that there's just a lot more research to go. And I mean, I'm pretty confident AI will figure that out at some point, and it might just emerge out of nowhere, not sure, or we can train it on it, but eventually they're going to figure out the multi-armed bandit problems. Next up, we're talking about CHAMP. It is the controllable and consistent human image automation with 3D parametric guidance paper. My gosh, could they make these titles any worse? I feel like that's the real competition. That's what academia is really putting their effort into. Like, how stupid can we make these titles? I mean, I'm sure it's accurate to its industry or whatever. That's probably why. But here's the thing. In a nutshell, CHAMP is just this cool... Oh, do you know what I have right up here? I just remembered I have a visual aid. 1 second. But yeah, I have this guy on my bookshelf just right out of frame. But yeah, basically you can, pose him. So if you're an artist, you pose him how you want, and it helps you kind of understand just the layout of the human body and how the torso bends and stuff like that. Same thing. CHAMP is this thing. CHAMP is just the digital version of this thing that you can move around and put in the position you want, and then you generate the image, and it has some understanding of like the 3-dimensional layout of a human and where our bones and muscles are and how they work, so that you get consistently characters that have sort of a humanoid shape. And it can be other types of humanoid shapes like cartoons and things like that, but it actually isn't just any shape. Like, it's not working for dogs and dinosaurs and stuff like that. And of course, imagine it with much more detail, much more movement understanding. So how like fingers might move, all of the minute details in a face. So when you're using a diffusion model to create like a man who's sad, it actually like understands everything that droops, the like way a face works when somebody's depressed, all that stuff. And when they were able to train a model model to generate people doing things, and they were able to use this CHAMP method in the background, everything became much more realistic and consistent over time. So all in all, CHAMP is a pretty cool paper. All right, next paper, we're talking about VidLA, or VidLA, Video Language Alignment at Scale. Imagine something like Runway ML, where you can take a photograph and it can kind of animate it, right? It's like, okay, here's a person, I can see where their face is, here's a dog, here's where the dog's body is, and I can kind of extrapolate some basic things, but after too long, it gets kind of wonky. So what they're trying here is to think about different sets of tokens, like all actually completely different models that are trained at different temporal resolutions, and they have a hierarchy. So imagine one model that knows exactly how the face is going to move in the next 10 frames of a video. Another face trained on how much a face might move over the next 2 minutes, and then they nest them together. That way, the top model can kind of say like, oh, here's what I think is happening in the next few frames, but by that time, when I get to a minute, I have to somehow align with that. So it gives it extra information about how to kind of keep these different animations moving over a long period of time and kind of looking normal. Check this out. The video that went up a couple days ago, 2,700 views. You know, we set that goal for 1,000 and it seems reasonable, but we at least hit that reasonable goal plus a lot more. So it's been so long since I've had a video above 1,000 views. That felt great. Thank you so much. Let me show you some of the analytics here. I'm still trying to figure out what it is because I want to mimic whatever happened in this. And at first I was like, okay, maybe it's the title. You know, it's like got Elon Musk in it. It's like disturbing decision and all that in all caps. So like overall, it got 2,700 views. It made me $5.50. The click-through rate at 8%, like almost a 9% click-through rate, and it got 20,000 impressions. All that is wonderful. Super excited about that. Demographics were the same, 100% men. I know it seems like there's a couple girls in the comment section, so they just must have guy viewing habits. I don't know. But United States obviously is where most of my people are, a little bit in Australia and the UK and Canada. This little peek here I thought correlated a little bit with this cool video that was released. So that was a new Sora thing, which makes sense because everything that comes out of Sora is like, wow, I can't believe I made that video. That's AI generated? No way. And that was a new one. So that's probably why. Also, I thought this might be of note, not much of the overall percentage, right? Only 0.4%. was actually from external sources. However, I almost never have had anything say Discord before. And I have made a point to be in Discord a little bit more. Like I joined David Shapiro's Discord and AI Explains Discord, but I'm not trying to like promote my videos. Obviously that's not going to come off good to the community. So I'm just in there just like chatting and answering questions, except for my introduction thing. I said I had a YouTube channel or whatever. So maybe that's kind of helping a little bit. Maybe some people are kind of getting to know me. So I'm going to try to spend more time in other people's Discords and, you know, obviously just contributing to their community, but being part of a community is the important part. So yeah, hit that like button. I'm going to try to keep up on all this AI news for you. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.